All right, let's just dive right in. Gold has been on an absolutely historic tear, just smashing records left and right. And it's left everyone asking one huge question. After a rally this insane, what on earth comes next? Are we looking at a temporary peak? Or is this actually the start of a whole new era for the world's oldest asset?
And that question, it gets right to the heart of what's happening. Because this rally isn't just about regular investors. We're talking about the most powerful financial players on the planet, central banks, making a very deliberate, very strategic shift. So we're going to break down exactly why they're moving away from the US dollar and what that really signals for the future.
I mean, just to put this into perspective, gold surged around 60% in 2025. That is its best year since 1979. A move that big has forced basically everyone to completely rethink gold's role in our modern financial system.
But what's really driving this isn't just your typical market chatter. No, we're talking about something much, much deeper. It's a fundamental structural change in how entire countries manage their money, something people are calling the Great Dollar Diversification.
And the key phrase you're going to hear over and over is de-dollarization. Now look, this isn't about the dollar disappearing overnight. Not at all. It's a conscious, strategic decision by nations all over the world to, not put all their eggs in one basket and to reduce their reliance on a single currency.
And if you think this is just some theory, think again. The decision back in 2022 to freeze Russia's dollar reserves, that was a seismic event. For central bankers everywhere, from Beijing to Sao Paulo, it turned a what-if risk into a very real threat. It got them all asking the same question. Wait a minute, could our assets be next? And the result of that wake-up call? It's right here in black and white. Just look at the jaw-dropping spike in gold buying by central banks right after that happened. They've pretty much become the #1 driver in the gold market, with their purchases more than doubling compared to what they were before 2022.
And all that buying has a direct consequence. You can see it here. Over the past decade, the US dollar slice of the global reserves pie has shrunk from about 66% down to 56%. So where did that money go? Well, a huge chunk of it is flowing straight into gold, which is making a serious comeback as a core reserve asset.
But de-dollarization is only half the story. The other massive driver is gold's timeless job as the ultimate safe haven asset. Think of it as the world's insurance policy for when things get chaotic. And things have been pretty chaotic. And today, you don't have to look far to find reasons for that safe haven demand. I mean, take your pick. We've got mountains of global debt, geopolitical conflicts that just won't go away, fears that our money is losing its value, and just a general feeling of uncertainty about what our leaders are going to do next.
Let's just zoom in on one of those for a second. Debt. Mid-2025, the estimated global debt was $340 trillion. A number that big that's almost hard to comprehend naturally makes people worry about the long-term health of currencies that are just backed by government promises.
And this quote just nails it perfectly. See, unlike a stock or a bond, gold has no counterparty risk. Its value doesn't depend on some CEO hitting their quarterly numbers or a government's ability to pay its bills. It's just there. It's a neutral asset in a world that is definitely not neutral.
And here's where the old rule book is getting thrown out. It used to be simple. High interest rates were bad for gold. But in 2025, gold rallied anyway, despite high rates. And that tells you something really important. Investors are now prioritizing gold's role as a shield against huge government debts over those old-school financial models.
Okay, so we've looked at the powerful forces pushing gold higher, which of course brings us to the $5,000 question. Where do prices go from here? So let's see what the biggest names on Wall Street are predicting for 2026.
What's pretty amazing is how strong the consensus is. You've got JP Morgan targeting over $5,000 an ounce. Bank of America and HSBC are right there at $5,000. Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley are just a stone's throw away. The message from the experts is crystal clear. They think this party is going to keep going.
But of course, forecasting is never about just one magic number. It's just not that simple, right? Analysts actually think in terms of probabilities, and they group the outlook into a few main scenarios based on how things might play out in the world.
And you can see how that breaks down here. The base case, which is the most likely outcome, gets a 50% probability. That's basically where gold just kind of holds on to its recent gains. But then you have a pretty significant 30% chance of a bull case. That's where the rally really kicks into high gear. And only a 20% chance of a pullback.
And here's what that looks like in actual dollars. The base case keeps gold well above 4,200. But that bull case, the one with a 30% shot, that sees gold making a real push past $5,000. And hey, even the bear case, the bad scenario, shows a really strong floor right around $4,000. So that's next year. But now let's zoom out a bit, because a lot of analysts believe what we're seeing isn't just a one-year rally. They think we're in the middle of a multi-year revaluation of gold's role in the world.
And this long-term view, this is where the story gets really compelling. These are projections based on institutional forecasts for the next 5 years. You can see a very clear trend line upwards, with the bottom end climbing steadily. And the top end scenarios, they're pushing past $10,000 by 2030.
Wow. So when you put it all together, what this really points to is a fundamental change. Those big drivers we talked about, de-dollarization, the hunt for a safe haven, all that debt, those things aren't going away. They're structural forces that could keep pushing gold higher for years to come.
Which really leaves us with this final, pretty huge thought to chew on.
As the old financial system keeps changing and shifting under our feet, you have to wonder, is gold, this ancient piece of metal, re-emerging to become the one true, neutral anchor for whatever new era comes next?